We're in Canada, which causes us some huge, shipping from Canada to the States is monstrously expensive. A box of comics that within the States I think is around $8 to send, costs us $35. And there's maybe like 10, 15 comics in there. So the trade-off for the buyer is just, the buyer can't really see that as a value, So we're trying to be flexible with shipping. We will absorb shipping costs and trade off on a comic.
So there are also a lot of horror stories about the Canadian-American border in terms of censorship and plucking goods. Have you guys run into that?
I'd like to say, yeah, we have some really juicy stories, but we don't. And that's because the Canadian border is difficult to get stuff into, but not out of. And it's perfectly legal and, all above board to sell within the country. It's just on that border guard who's not interested in our material. If that sets off some red flags, then we're in trouble. So we send it out. So
I heard that even the X-Men title got pulled at one point by some kind of overzealous border guard who thought that it meant it was X-rated or something.
Yeah, just an X was enough to do it.
Yeah. Steve, you're also Canadian. Have you run into issues around shipments?
No, because my career as a cartoonist is basically parallel to my leaving the country, because I started drawing when I was in Japan and then I moved here. So I haven't actually done anything in Canada except as like a visitor, and they've never stopped me because I smuggle the comics in my luggage. So it's never been an issue.
But you consciously smuggled them, didn't you?
I just did not declare, and I technically have a residence there because my sister lives in Vancouver. I could have just claimed these are personal goods that I'm storing at my sister's house. And they were, yeah, exactly. I did leave a box there.
Zan, have you ever smuggled comics?
I did the Toronto Comic Arts Festival for the first time, partially with Prism and with Northwest Press, and I brought a whole bunch of inventory with me. I shipped it out to, I shipped some of it there, and I brought some with me in my luggage, and I drove up from Buffalo. And I'm just like the most nervous, bad liar in the world. And so they recommended that the beguiling in Toronto, what they did was they said, include an invoice in your package that says these are books that have been paid for or will be paid for by the store, and give a massive discount, like 70% off or something. So the value is much lower, and then the declared value would be just like a $10 at the most to pay for it to get across the border. I went to art school, not math school, and so I gave a 30% discount to the stuff, and so it ended up being this crazy amount of money just to get it across the border. And then, of course, this is stock that I'm hoping to sell at the show. Not all of it sold, and so I'm bringing it all back with me. And it was the border guards. One thing I will say about the border guards, at least at this one border checkpoint, they're all hot bears, and so they detained me, and I was like, okay. But other than that, it was kind of annoying.
So, Steve, you self-publish. Is there a reason that you've decided to self-publish as opposed to work with another publisher? Or, Robert was talking about this kind of being nimble in a modern market. Is that something that you thought about?
Yeah, it was delusion, mostly, I think. No, it was based on the fact, it was based on my experiences being published by Fantagraphics and through Eros. And we did the first, when we did Sticky, the book that was my first erotic book, we did it as 3 single-issue pamphlets published through Eros Comics. And they had never done a gay comic book before. They had like 10 years ago, and they were trying their feet in the market again. And they didn't really know what to do with it, and we kept suggesting markets to try, and they were like, but we're not really, they've never done that before, and we don't want to deal with this distributor, and so all of the suggestions kind of got batted away, and so I think we sold like 500 copies or something. It was not a financial success for the company. And then when we took the collection to Bruno Gmunder is great, and they're very visible, and they got that book into every gay bookstore in the country and in Europe, but they don't actually pay very well. So I was just doing the math and thinking, if Eros, with all of their promotional muscle behind them, if they can print 3,000 and sell 500, I'm pretty sure I can do that myself. And I can make a higher amount per volume. Plus, I wanted to not do erotic material for the second issue, for the second series for Shirtlifter. I wanted to get away from that and expand my ability somewhat. And I knew it was a bit of a hard sell, and I didn't know if there would be a market for it. So if I did it myself, then I knew that if I failed, it was because I failed and not because I was giving it to someone who didn't know what they were doing.
Well, also it's kind of a long-term thing. My business plan was deliberately a multi-year plan. I wasn't thinking about, I'm going to make this book and this book is going to make me money, and then I'm going to do a next project and that's going to make me more money. I knew that was not going to happen.
Right.
I knew I was going to sell like 500 copies in a year, and that was going to be a good year. And so I focused on going into debt first, and then the second year maybe making a tiny little bit of money, and then the third year hopefully would be a living. And we'll see if that happens, but building up that catalog, because now when you go to shows, I'm sure you have the same experience as me, you go to shows and you have 4 books, and they like one, they buy maybe multiple copies of all the other ones, right. And so you end up with your sales probably increasing over time. You just have to kind of ride out that lean part at the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. It's at the point where it's kind of a self-sustaining model. I went into debt this year because I put out a new issue, and that's $6,000 for a printing bill, and I will not sell $6,000 worth of copies this year, but I will get that back eventually. So it's just a matter of how much I'm willing to ride it out. And I don't think a publisher would take that same long game view of things. I will get rid of all 2,000 copies eventually, I know I will.
And I just a little plug for Shirtlifter. The 4th issue is, I think, by far the best. And especially, it's something you can buy standalone. Even if you haven't read the previous ones, it stands alone as a really beautiful story, and I think it's your best one to date. So.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Robert, you guys started essentially as publishing Patrick's work, and then you kind of evolved somewhere you transformed between from being a self-publisher to kind of a publisher working with other creators. What was that transition like?
Well, I think that's kind of ties into what we were saying about how you summarize being nimble. That we definitely started out as a self-publisher. We're focused on, basically Patrick said, you know what, I can't buy what I want to make anywhere. So he started making it. He started just going to like a Kinko's like place and producing it. When I first met him, the comics were on a bookshelf at the end of his bed. So it was literally a pile this big, and it was the start of what we have now. Another thing is, we're a publisher, but we still go to Bruno Commander and have them publish our books. So it's about having your niche. We know we could not make this book. We know we could not send it around the world. We couldn't just support it. So
why?
We're 2 guys, and this, if we print 3,000 in this, I'm dead. My back is just
So like literally the physical nature of like hauling that.
Well, that's
shit.
Right. Books are heavy, as we all know.
And storage and yeah.
And it's also about having your niche.
I don't have a garage anymore.
Exactly. But if you have your niche, if you know where you fit in things, that's not a bad thing. That's an awesome thing. Because then you don't have to worry about like, can I make one of this? Can I assemble all 350 pages and then really put out a quality product that will reach people? But if you have your niche and if you work really hard within it, people will come to you, people will find you, you'll develop that core following that that works with you and that they connect. So, yeah, so that is.